There are times we all have a friend, and you root for the friend, and you think that friend got bad luck. That friend got bad luck. I am there for him. And then 10 years later, you're like, no, most of his crap is self-inflicted. Now, I am not talking about you, Nick, right? Because I haven't known you 10 years. But there are people like that. Milwaukee is one of those stories that I liked for a long time. Giannis from Greece, 60 Minutes piece. Oh, I like that. Ooh, they added Jrue Holiday. I like what they're doing. I've got to the point now I'm rooting against them. Like, I'm over Milwaukee. Kawhi left the East. LeBron leaves the East. Embiid is hurt. They scored 38 points against Atlanta without Trae Young. I watched them last night, and I'm like, their crap is self-inflicted. I am over Milwaukee this morning. Your thoughts?
I'm shell-shocked. It's very interesting. I spent some time this past weekend with the great Joy Taylor here in New York City. And listen, I'm going to reveal some confidences. Joy also not as big of a Giannis fan as the rest of the world is. And I said to her, I was like, Joy, that's a corner. You could be like the first, you'd have to really go far with it, but you could be loudly anti-Giannis. No one's on that corner. This could be the anti-Giannis show. It's an odd day for you to debut this take, Colin, as he's writhing on the ground, holding his knee.
That's true.
Listen, I feel very differently. And I heard the open of your show when Colin's like, I was listening to all these terrible talk shows this morning feeling bad about Giannis. I was like, he's talking about me. I know when he drives in, he's literally talking about my take this morning. Listen, I think Milwaukee has done things the right way. They drafted Giannis when other teams passed on him. They developed him. They invested in his supporting cast. They then this summer did what we always ask teams to do, which is put all their chips in the middle of the table and overpay for a guy they needed in Jrue Holiday. They did all of that. They then fought a 7-game war with Brooklyn where they were down 2-0, where they were down 3-2, where they were on the road for a Game 7, and they were right there. And I know they had a bad first half last night, but I thought with the way Giannis was playing in the second half, they were about to win that game, go up 3-1 in the series, and be the favorites to win the title. And then Giannis went down. And he's been an Iron Man. I know he got dinged in the playoffs last year, but he's not Harden, he's not Kyrie, who's been hurt a lot. He's not Anthony Davis. He's not Kawhi. And so I feel sick for him. And so I understand your point about the injuries. Some of them were predictable. This one wasn't. And I think Milwaukee was going to win the title. And now, unless somehow Giannis miraculously comes back, they're not going to win the title. They might not even make the finals. So I feel differently than you on this. But this is good. This can be the anti-Giannis show. You enjoy, can ride that boat and see where it goes. I don't want to be a part of it.
Well, I felt bad for the injury, but after the first half, I was just I was exhausted from Milwaukee. I was like, no Trae Young. This is what I get. Literally, you have the moment to seize it. You got an hour, and they fall behind by 12. And I just couldn't take it. Okay, so we talk about injuries. And I'm like, okay. I'm kind of over blaming injuries. Even Brooklyn, KD and Kyrie have an injury history, and Harden came into the season to prove a point. I'm not going to work out. Well, as I said earlier, Anthony Davis and Harden came into the season out of shape. In the world's number one professional league for being in shape, it's like running a marathon without training, getting hurt mile 18 and blaming the marathon. It's like, no, you weren't in shape. Like, I think we are where we are. Atlanta's a little bit of an upstart, but the East is weak. Philadelphia led those games. They couldn't hit free throws late. Philadelphia should have won that series. I think we're making too much of the injuries, and who's left is mostly who should be left.
Well, so I think it's actually a really interesting point. And as I just mentioned, the Giannis injury is to me an outlier one because it was a freak thing and it's a guy who hasn't been hurt. But the point you made, is it shocking that Kawhi Leonard is dealing with a lower leg injury? No, he's been dealing with it for 4 years to some capacity. Is it shocking that Anthony Davis got banged up? Of course not. I know Kyrie's injury feels like a freak one, but Kyrie Irving missed the tournament when he was at Duke, His team then didn't qualify for the playoffs until 2015. In 2015, he got hurt in the playoffs. In 2018, he was hurt for the playoffs. In 2020, he was hurt for the playoffs. And then in 2021, he got hurt in the playoffs. That's not shocking. Harden dealt with the hamstring during the regular season. So that's not shocking either. There's no silver lining to this. And they obviously have to take care of business tonight or in Game 7. But there might be some poetic justice in this regard. If the healthiest team left ends up being Phoenix, and it appears that it is, and Chris Paul wins his first and only title, going through the Lakers without AD, and then the Nuggets without Jamal, and then the Clippers without Kawhi, and then potentially the Bucks without Giannis, or I guess maybe the Hawks, Chris Paul, if injuries didn't exist, would already have a title.
Yes.
They'd have won the title in 2018. They might have won it once with the Clippers. So Chris Paul's had bad injury luck throughout his whole career, and now maybe the injuries are finally breaking for them. And lastly, and I think this is an important point you made, I just want to emphasize it, the one team that's here that it's like, wait, how are they here? Atlanta. They have not gotten any injury luck. It's been the opposite. DeAndre Hunter got hurt. Cam Reddish was out. Bogey got hurt. They played the Knicks, who were healthy for the most part, and Philly, aside from Danny Green, Philly was healthy. Philly just melted down.
Right.
So they got to the conference finals without injury luck. Now, obviously, the Giannis thing changes things, but that was in a game Trae was already missing. So Atlanta's not there because of the injuries. They're there because they outplayed the Knicks and the Sixers.
You know, at Barkley yesterday, because I'm older, I remember I heard the Jordan criticism that he couldn't win. And Barkley took exception to all these people saying Paul George gets criticized a lot. And I do think players do face a barrage of criticism that, it used to be if the local columnist ripped you, you'd stop talking to him and you plugged the leak. Now there's coming from all angles, all this criticism. But what do you make of Barkley saying, toughen up, Paul George, everybody gets criticized? And to some degree, it is a badge of honor, right?
So it is a badge of honor, but here's where I disagree with Chuck a bit. Everybody's criticized, right? So Russell Westbrook gets criticized a lot on this show historically. But he's not made fun of. Paul George, it's not that he was criticized. He was being made fun of and mocked. And that feels a little different. Mm-hmm. So I don't think guys mind being criticized. I think human beings don't like being a punchline. Yeah. And so that's, to me, like it's people were not saying, it wasn't just like basketball criticism. He was becoming the butt of jokes. And I think that is what made the Paul George stuff stand out a little bit more. And I think Charles, if we talked to him about it, would acknowledge that. Like Paul George had entered into the JaVale McGee category where he was only not level of player, but remember when JaVale on that show was just a constant punchline? Right. That's how Paul was being treated throughout social media. And he had multiple, Wilds pointed this out this morning, he had multiple nicknames just making fun of him. Way Off P, Pandemic P, like no one else in the league was dealing with that. So I don't think he was the most criticized player in the league, but I do think he was the most mocked player. And I think that, bothers guys in a different type of way. So I understand what Chuck was saying, but I think it missed the mark a bit. Now he's going to call me one of the jackasses on TV, but that's just is what it is.
By the way, I like the Suns tonight. I think the line is -1 if I was the kind of guy that wagered. And who would you take tonight if you're a betting man?
Oh, I'll take the Suns. I love Chris Paul. I am nervous on his behalf, so I can only imagine how DeAndre Ayton and Devin Booker are going to feel tonight. I mean, this is supposed to be the Chris Paul coronation. Game 5 was supposed to be. Now it's Game 6. Everyone, myself included, is like, top 5 point guard of all time. Inarguable. He can't blow a 3-1 lead to a team without Kawhi. Just can't happen. So the Suns have kind of been free-rolling. They haven't played any elimination games. They haven't played too many high-leverage games. I do want to see for Ayton and Booker if they take on some of the pressure, almost via Chris Paul, because this is a massive moment, because they do not want to be in a Game 7 against a team that might be coached by the best coach in the whole league in Ty Lue.
Yeah, Ty is he's playing chess. Ty is having a great, he is pulling the opposite of Budenholzer. He is pulling strings all night. All right, great seeing you, Nick. Thanks, bud. Nick Wright.
You too. See you guys.
You bet. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.